Samuel Solder very generously gave me a year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Up against Sigarda, host of Herons this time, with a haste enabler in Goblin Warchief. If we get into another land, can maybe get rid of some fast mana with the Vandal Blast, so yeah, it's not a very quick hand, but we'll try it. If we get into a fast hand, our opponent's just going to scoop anyway. Alright, a Den of the Bugbear, we'll get that out now so that it comes in untapped. And then some Ramping Farseek, our opponent's going to have plenty of time to get the Sigarda down. Okay, Farseek from our opponent is going to have plenty of time to get Sigarda down, annoyingly. Draw it into a mountain and, yeah, just continuing to go slowly. Angelic Field Marshal from our opponent. And there's a Ruby Medallion, could have done with that last turn. Yeah, just a mountain again into the Goblin Warchief. And our opponent just accelerating ahead of us on mana. They've only got 2 cards in hand at least, but I dare say we see the Sigarda here. And there it is, noteworthy that they have Emeria the Sky Ruin as well, with 3 planes in play at the moment. And yet another mountain. So we'll go for the Ruby Medallion. I'll hold off on the Vandal Blast until we can actually overload that and wipe the board, just in case they get some decent equipment out. So let's just hardcast the Light Up the Stage. That is a Goblin King. Our opponent is never going to have any mountains in play, unfortunately. And we are up against a Vigilance opponent as well, so it's very unlikely we'll do anything this game. Obviously the Mana Crypt has the chance to help reduce our opponent's life total as well, although they missed the Lightning Bolt there. So another 10 points of Vigilance damage in the air. And then a Baneslayer Angel just to make it even more of an uphill battle. They've got lifelink available to them now. Okay, so more haste and a Goblin Chieftain. We'll play our cards from exile. That is a Mountain, and a 2-mana Goblin King is a Lord effect. So if our opponent had any mountains, we'd be alright here, but like I said, it's not likely. So on turn 5, we'll go for a very slow Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin. And I suppose we might as well Goblin Chieftain as well. Then, seeing as how we've got haste, we can replay the Krenko next turn, so let's get 4 3/3 Goblin tokens into play. They will gain some life from the Baneslayer Angel here. So killing off the Krenko, we will put it back into the command zone, of course. And 15 points of damage in the air. They've got us next turn, most likely. And there we see a Platinum Angel, so they've had pretty much everything they need against us this game. Plus the fact that I kept a pretty poor hand there and just keep drawing into lands, so yeah, if we manage to get some bigger creatures into play, or manage to get the Krenko up much bigger, then the Chandra's Ignition could have been decent maybe, but yeah, it's not happening this game, I don't think. So let's just play it out for the fun of it. We'll go Vandal Blast onto the Platinum Angel, and then play out the Tin Street Kingpin again. And then we'll just turn everything in sideways. So we are seeing what we can do with Krenko at least. I mean, it is turn 6, and we're getting a big Goblin army that's buffed into play, but Sigarda's a bad matchup at the best of times, and it's a particularly good matchup against this deck. Our opponent taking blocks seriously here, so getting rid of our 2 Lords and the Commander. And just to rub salt in the wound, I don't think they missed a single Mana Crypt flip either. Anyway, they swing in for lethal, and it's on to the next one. Up against Beladros this time with another 1-lander, so have to mulligan. Into another 1-lander, have to mulligan. Okay, into plenty of mana there. A Bitter Reunion available to us. So we'll try it, have to get rid of 2 cards annoyingly. So that can be the Shadow Spear and the Goblin Bombardment. We are on the draw here. Now turn 1 play from our opponent, that is a Lightning Greaves, so that means that we've got a hasty Krenko next turn thanks to the Ancient Tomb. Beladros casting Demonic Tutor. Okay, into more fast mana in Sol Rings, so we can go Mountain into the Sol Ring and our Krenko. So obviously it's Lightning Greaves onto the Krenko, and might be that our opponent just went for a Demonic Tutor in for a board wipe, but we should be able to get out our Krenko again quickly enough. Our opponent gets into some fast mana of his own, that is a Mana Crypt into an Ancient Craving, so maybe tutored for the Mana Crypt instead, trying to get up to Beladros as soon as possible. Alright, another mountain for us, so mountain into Bitter Reunion, probably alright. And we're going to abrade that Mana Crypt, so we'll discard the mountain. Gets us into Legion War Boss, that's annoying, that would be nice to get down here, but has to be abrade to blow this thing up. And then we'll swing in with the Krenko again, going to make even more goblins. And another tutor, Vamp Tutor this time. So may soon be able to replace that Mana Crypt. Alright, so a Necropotent's going to just try and fill up on as many cards as possible, I imagine. 5 cards in hand at the moment. Just going for 4 cards with Necropotents by the looks of it. Discarding to hand size, and they are exiled thanks to the Necropotents, Torment of Hailfire, and Doubling Season. Another mountain for us. Well, we can do something at least. A Legion War Boss, the obvious play here. And we can give it haste with the Lightning Greaves. So Legion War Boss triggers for another Goblin. Swinging with everything, Mentor can just put a token on its own, or a counter on its own token. Well, it's our opponent's chance to stabilise here. We've got them down to 9, and 9 commander. Okay, and did they just pass the turn through to us? Well, we keep drawing into lands. They can't draw into any, apparently, so well, we'll just turn in sideways at them again. So, winning out against Necropotents and 2 tutors feels pretty good. So, that just looks like some terrible luck from our opponent. Alright, did have a land there, so yielded by accident by the looks of it, and had a damnation. Okay, so that game doesn't count. Up against the ever-popular Sisay Weatherlight Captain this time, and 2-lander, pretty slow with that hand. We'll mulligan and try to get into something better. Well, a 1-lander isn't much better, is it? Okay, so getting to the Lightning Greaves again. Valakut is decent, little bit of card draw, so yeah, we can refill our hand with Goblin Recruiter. Let's get rid of, it will just have to be Aki and Reckless Impulse. Drag into our mountains, so take advantage, get down the Valakut, and the time can start ticking on this. We do have some fetches, so that we can Lightning Bolt at instant speed. I wouldn't have thought it would be all that relevant against Sisay, but could push some extra points of damage through. We got our opponent down to 9 life in the previous game. Our opponent seemingly stuck on colours. If you're going to be stuck on colours, then these are the ones to be stuck on, because they can obviously fetch out other colours for you. A Shinka for us. We just want to make mountains as best we can, so Lightning Greaves again, ready for our commander next turn. Alright, well, they have the mana ready with Cavern of Souls, likely casting Sisay this turn. Anyway, they did name human with this, and getting down Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia. Light up the stage for us. We won't be able to play this turn, unfortunately, so yeah, we can still swing in with the Krenko. Best do that as soon as possible, get some power up on it. And the toughness is going to be relevant against Sisay as well. Sisay being played now, and they follow that up with a bounce land. Okay, Cathartic Pyre for us. So 3 damage to a creature on Sisay is probably a good idea. Let's get down the Shinka first, so that we can threaten first strike on the Krenko. So swing in at our opponent with the Krenko here. Make some more Goblin tokens. And they do just take it, as you would expect. So we'll go for the Cathartic Pyre onto the Sisay. 3 damage to that should buy us a bit of time. And then we can go Goblin Recruiter to refill our hand here, I think. So the trick with this card is to put Goblin Ringleader on top of your library. You play that and then put the top 4 cards that will be goblins straight into your hand. So Goblin Ringleader first. We definitely want the Skirk Prospector. Krenko Mob Boss, so that we can play that into a hasty Goblin is probably good. So then it's War Chief and the Chieftain as well. And we only get 4 Goblins off the Ringleader here, so we'll say that that's alright. We've got 7 mana available for a creature here. We know that they've got the Avamaya still in hand. They play out the Reflecting Pool, which will tap for any colours. Tap for any colours alongside the Cavern of Souls. And now seeing our opponent cast a Joda the Unifier, which is pretty scary. Obviously a legendary tribal deck, so this gets bumped up to a 5/6. So now there's a 7/7 Joda in the way, and they tap this down for 3 mana into Selvala, so that's going to be some card draw and a lot of mana for them. And Joda revealing a lot of cards there, so I don't know if this is part of some kind of combo, but yeah, I'll do my best to show you all the cards here. For those of you who are interested in this deck, you'll have to squint at the screen. I can't expand the cards any more than that. Or I suppose I could try here, couldn't I? Why don't I do it like that? And I could try doing that. There you go. So, screenshot for you, and you can look up the cards in your own time. Right, so we know what we're drawing into here. It is the Goblin Ringleader, drop a mountain, and I think we try and go wide on our opponent just so we can go light up the stage after the Goblin Ringleader. So yeah, let's swing in with 3 creatures here. And they do decide to risk a block, but we still get the point of damage through to them. Not sure if I covered the Ozolith. The Ozolith has come down as well, which could be relevant. Alright, so Goblin Ringleader first to put those cards straight into hand. And then we put the 4 goblins that we tutored up straight into our hand. And now we can go light up the stage for its spectacle cost. And that reveals to us a Beetleback Chief, and we do have, not hexproof, we do have First Strike on our red creatures if we play that thing. So time to see with 5 cards in hand what scary things they can do with a Joda in play. A Dragon Lord Dramoka now, lifelink is the last thing that we want to see against an aggro list like this one. And that cascaded them into Shadowheart, Dark Justicia. Sacrifice another creature, draw cards where it exits power. Don't think I've ever seen that one before. A Human Elf Cleric. Sisay Weatherlight Captain into play, and they can tutor something up here. Casting another background, that is Folk Hero. Managed to get themselves into an Ugin, so yeah, this is pretty much us done. And then we've got the Joda swinging in towards us, so we'll just have to take the hit here, I think. Yeah, so like I said before, we're pretty much done here. I think we'll have to get down the Skirk Prospector. We can do that after we swing in and throw away this Krenko, I think. Pretty much using Krenko as a ramp at this point. So obviously swing in at Ugin. We still haven't seen a mountain from our opponents, so the Goblin King wouldn't have been much use to us. But we do get 4 Goblin tokens for swinging in here. They can gain some life from the Dragon Lord, which is exactly what they do. So they go up to 47. We will play out the Skirk Prospector, play the Krenko Mob Boss. Then it is a Lightning Greaves onto that. Tap it down for a bunch of goblins. And then we can sacrifice the odd Goblin token. And we might as well make our goblins cost 1 less, go for the Goblin War Chief. And after that, keep sacrificing tokens. It can be the Bloodmark Mentor. Our opponent can just deal with all these tokens thanks to the Ugin, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to get down haste next turn and do a little bit of something anyway, but highly doubt that we are anything less than dead next turn. So after that, it is a 3 mana Beetleback Chief that will come in with a couple of Goblin tokens. Okay, and not a particularly terrifying board for our opponents, so just pass the turn over and see how much he can take us down by. We do have 14 points of First Strike damage on the ground, so maybe don't want to turn in sideways with everything at the risk of losing a creature. They've played out a Thespian Stage at some point as well, maybe this turn. Our opponent making a hell of a lot of mana here. There's probably going to be enough for 4 or 5 tutors this turn. So Sisay going to tutor again, and that was into the Timeless Lotus. Then the Caldra Complete. Then Teferi, who slows the Sunset. Then deciding to untap the Bounce Land and the Selvala. So it's just a case of how many times can you tutor in one turn. I think they untapped the Timeless Lotus there as well, actually. Ugin went down by 1 there, so yeah, getting rid of our Skirk Prospector was the aim there, I think. Yeah, obviously gets rid of the tokens as well. So I've only got 7 points of First Strike damage here. We'll just take it because we're not winning against 5 tutors a turn. I'll try one more here. The Krenko Tin Street Kingpin, it's only going to be good really if you're not up against a very strong deck like this, or if you get a stupidly fast start, which often doesn't happen. So like I said, we'll try one more. Going head to head against Animar this time, and we have a 2-lander. The Lightning Greaves certainly likes showing up in this gameplay video, so we will keep that one. We're on the play this time, so drop the mountain. Seeing light up the stage again as well. We're seeing a lot of the same cards. Turn 1 Sol Ring from my opponent into Hadimir Signet, so we could see the Aminatou next turn. Getting to our 3rd mountain is good. So straight into Lightning Greaves and pass. And they did manage to make a white mana, so seeing Aminatou, the Fate Shifter. And they didn't activate Aminatou there for some reason. Not sure what the plan is there. Okay, draw into a 4th mountain, so play the 3rd mountain in the game on turn 3, Krenko Tin Street Kingpin, and we can swing in at the Aminatou here. It doesn't matter who we swing in at, we still get the plus counters on the Krenko, and therefore the goblins. Academy Ruins from my opponents, so yeah, even if we get a Vandal Blast on the Sol Ring, they can grab it back. Should slow them down nicely though. Now ticking up Aminatou for the first time, so I'll draw a card, put a card on top, and that allows them into Reality Acid, so we'll definitely get rid of the Aminatou as soon as we can, force them to replay it, because we want to be keeping the Lightning Greaves if we can. A Brightstone Ritual should do some work for us. Question is, do we do it this or next turn? We've got some goblins here that will make the Brightstone Ritual better. Yeah, anyway, let's deal with the Aminatou before anything else. Our opponent could have some form of removal on the tokens, but we'll start dealing damage to our opponent anyway, letting the Aminatou go down, so we'll likely see that again next turn. Go for the double spell in Mog War Marshal and the Goblin Instigator, each coming in with a Goblin token. Could be playing into a board wipe here, so yeah, that's a point. Maybe go light up the stage instead, just in case they do decide to wipe the board. That is an Embercleave for us next turn. Alright, so not playing anything there, could be a Cyclonic Rift, they've got exactly 7. We drop the Mountain, and we'll try the Embercleave anyway, at least it puts it back into our hand if they do Rift. If they do Rift, we'll get back the Lightning Greaves as well back into hand, and the Reality Acid will just fall off, so that's one positive at least. So obviously swinging in with everything, and that prompts them to go for the Cyclonic Rift, assuming that that's what they have here. They just tap down a couple of blue mana, they best not, yeah, I was going to say, they best not pass priority. Alright, so there it is, saw it coming. Embercleave we should still be able to cast here. It's only a couple of red, so might as well get it out of exile for only a couple of red. It's actually a number with the Lightning Greaves that I didn't think about, because yeah, we can't attach it to something with Shroud, but we'll just bear that in mind. So the Reality Acid falls off, forces us to sacrifice the Lightning Greaves, but can't sacrifice it once it's in our hand. So we're just starting again. Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin. Argument to be made for us just going Lightning Greaves there. Seeing Brago King Eternal now. And they've got 2 cards in hand, so do they have any counter magic for us, do we think? Another Mountain puts us at 6. Yeah, I think we're best going for the Lightning Greaves. And if we're not worried about spot removal at some point, we can always move the Lightning Greaves ready for the Embercleave. So maybe want to get down the Goblin Churgeon so that we can regenerate our Krenko in case they put some kind of destruction magic on it. More likely to see exile in Aminatou, but still. Swing in at our opponent. It'll be their 2 power to our 3 toughness. And then we'll go for the Goblin Instigator. We'll play straight into the board wipe this time. Go for Mog War Marshal as well. Aminatou the Fate Shifter into play once again, tapping down their rocks to do it. And then drawing a card, putting one on top. They'll likely untap the rocks with the Brago. Alright, not swinging in with Brago, maybe holding up a counter spell. Not going to pay 2 into the Mog War Marshal. Okay, a Jeska's Will. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand, so not sure if we should bother with that yet. Let's play out the Goblin Churgeon. Then we can try moving the Lightning Greaves over. Should we go Jeska's Will? Yeah, I think we can hold off a turn on the Jeska's Will here. Maybe go for the Brightstone Ritual at the end of the turn. Anyway, protect the Goblin Churgeon with the Lightning Greaves to take Shroud off of Krenko. And then we'll see if our opponent has any spot removal for our commander. Allowing us to swing in first, so we'll swing in at our opponent. Krenko goes in at our opponent, and we'll have all these go in at Aminatou. Should be able to go wide. And then I'm auto-yielded on Krenko's trigger there, which I shouldn't be. So the Embercleave is going to not be on Krenko by the time it resolves. We should have an extra Goblin in play from the Krenko. Don't think it's going to be all that relevant, so wait to see how they block. So Brago deciding to get rid of a Goblin, as you would expect, so it's Embercleave coming down attached to the Krenko. And that's now a 4-5 with double strike, so we're going to be landing a decent chunk of commander damage every turn. Managing to get rid of the Aminatou, and like I said before, I think we're more likely to see exile than Pongifies and stuff like that, so I don't think we need the regeneration on the Krenko specifically, so yeah, we'll just protect it with Shroud instead. Let's play the Jeska's Will, and we can still hold up Brightstone Ritual if we want to cast some big stuff. So point that at our opponent, we'll make 2 red mana and exile the top 3 cards. And we've only got this turn to play them, so we have available a Mass Hysteria, a Goblin Warchief, and a Mind Stone. Yeah, might as well play the Mind Stone. And it's potentially a waste of the mana from the Brightstone Ritual, but we'll play that here. I suppose we can crack the Mind Stone here, can't we? So crack that. That is a Cathartic Pyre, so 3 damage to the Brago seems alright, while it's got 1 damage on it thanks to that block. We can't rummage with that anyway because we need 2 cards in hand. And yeah, our opponent scoops to that. Was just going to get down the Goblin Warchief and then likely be pretty close to getting them next turn. Just drawing into a Sword of the Animist, which would have been a slight buff on the Krenko. So yeah, there we are. That is Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin. Didn't really get into any of the buffs for Krenko. We do have some equipment in the deck that can buff Krenko, but only really saw Sword of the Animist, I think, as well as Lightning Greaves, which obviously isn't a buff. But Tin Street Kingpin is a fun one anyway. It's by no means top tier in 1v1, but it's a fun one regardless. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Massive thank you to the patrons as ever for supporting the channel. You can do that yourself via the link in the description below. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.